So, I know this might sound a bit unusual, but have you ever wondered about some of the crazy torture methods people have come up with throughout history? Let's dive into some of these gruesome yet fascinating practices together, and if you're new to our channel, don't forget to subscribe. The rack. The victim's ankles and wrists were tied to rollers at either end of a wooden frame. The torturer would turn the rollers, stretching the victim's body and causing severe pain, dislocated joints, and sometimes tearing muscles and ligaments. This method was widely used during the medieval period, especially by the Inquisition in Europe. It's a good thing we don't live in those times, right? Iron Maiden. Another torture device from the medieval period. Now, picture this. A coffin-like contraption with iron spikes inside. People would get locked in there, and those spikes, well, let's just say they wouldn't exactly be comfortable. Scaphism, the boats. Ever heard of scaphism? It's this utterly gruesome method where they trap you between two boats, feed you milk and honey to attract insects, and then just wait for nature to take its course. Can you even imagine how awful that would be? And what if you're lactose intolerant? Judas cradle. The Judas cradle was used during the Spanish Inquisition to extract confessions from prisoners, and this one's just plain horrific. They'd make you sit on this pyramid-shaped seat with the pointy end, well, inserted in not-so-pleasant places. Don't try to imagine that now.
Brazen bull.
Imagine being roasted alive inside a giant bronze bull while your screams echo out of its mouth. The brazen bull was invented by Perillos of Athens and used by Phalaris, the tyrant of Acragas in Sicily. This gruesome method served as both a public spectacle and a tool of terror, demonstrating the ruler's power. Breaking wheel, Catherine wheel. Used in Europe during the Middle Ages and early modern period for severe crimes. They tie you to a big wheel and, well, you can probably guess the rest. It's hard to believe people actually came up with these things, isn't it? Chinese water torture. Its exact origins are unclear, but it became known in Western culture in the early modern period. This one might not sound as bad as some of the others, but imagine having water dripped on your forehead, slowly, relentlessly, driving you to the brink of madness. It's the kind of thing that would mess with your head big time. Flaying. Used in various cultures, including ancient Assyria, medieval Europe, and by the Aztecs. The skin of the victim was removed, usually starting from the feet or head. The process was excruciatingly painful and often resulted in death from shock, blood loss, or infection. Impalement. This one's just beyond gruesome. They'd stick you on a sharpened stake and, well, you can probably imagine how that would end. Let's just say it's not for the faint of heart. Impalement was notably used by Vlad the Impaler, also known as Vlad Dracula, in 15th century Romania. This method was intended to instill fear and deter enemies. It was a particularly brutal and slow form of execution, often taking days for the victim to die. Keel hauling, also known as the wooden horse torture, practiced by pirates and navies in the 17th and 18th centuries. The wooden horse was used in various forms across different cultures, including Japan, where it was known as the makuza. The victim would be tied to a rope looped beneath a ship. They were dragged under the ship's hull, scraping against the barnacles and other rough surfaces, often leading to severe lacerations and drowning. Being dragged underwater while your skin gets scraped raw by barnacles? No thank you. The Spanish donkey. Used during the Spanish Inquisition. The victim was made to straddle a sharp, angled wooden board or metal bar, often with weights tied to their feet. The pressure would gradually cut into their body. Do you feel like you're happy you're born in this time instead of the past? Lingqi, death by 1,000 cuts. This one is obvious. Practiced in China from around the 10th century until it was outlawed in 1905. Lingqi involves the victim being subjected to a series of small, precise cuts over an extended period. Each cut was intended to prolong suffering and delay death. Waterboarding. You probably heard of this before. Waterboarding involves strapping the victim to a board and pouring water over their face, causing an intense sensation of drowning. This method has roots dating back to the Spanish Inquisition, where it was used to extract confessions. In modern times, it gained notoriety when the CIA employed it during the War on Terror Post 9/11. In 2009, President Obama officially banned the use of waterboarding and other enhanced interrogation techniques. Electroshock torture. Electroshock torture has been used by various regimes worldwide. This involves the application of electric shocks to various parts of the body, causing extreme pain and muscle contractions. Sleep deprivation. Depriving a person of sleep for extended periods can cause severe psychological distress, hallucinations, and physical exhaustion. The Soviet Union's KGB were notorious for employing this method to break the will of prisoners. If it's not for gaming or studying for an exam, sleep deprivation is definitely not a pleasant experiment. Stress positions. Stress positions were widely used by the U.S. military in places like Guantanamo Bay and Abu Ghraib. Similar techniques have been used by various regimes, including the Soviet KGB. They would force you to maintain a painful position for a long period, which lead to extreme discomfort and pain. The practice involves forcing detainees to stand, squat, or kneel in unnatural positions for hours. It's basically yoga, but it is set in hell. Okay, that's a lot of torture method explained so far. You need a short break before we finish the list? Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. White torture. White torture is a modern technique that gained notoriety in Iran. It involves keeping you in completely white rooms, where everything from the walls to the lights is white, and all sounds are minimized. The goal is to create a sense of isolation and sensory deprivation. This will surely break your will. Falanga, bastinado. Falanga has a long history, dating back to ancient times in the Middle East and Asia. It was commonly used by the Ottoman Empire and later adopted by various modern regimes. Falanga means the soles of your feet will be the end of the sticks or rods, causing intense pain and sometimes permanent damage. Ouch. Pillory torture. The pillory was used in Europe and colonial America from the Middle Ages through the 19th century. Notable cases. One of the most famous individuals to be pilloried was Daniel Defoe, author of Robinson Crusoe, who was punished for publishing politically sensitive pamphlets. The pillory was a device made of a wooden or metal framework erected on a post, with holes for securing the head and hands. You will be locked in the pillory and left exposed to public humiliation. This doesn't cause any pain, but would you choose suffering or public humiliation? Tickle torture. Perhaps this is the less severe torture in this list. Tickle torture involves subjecting the victim to intense tickling, often to the point of causing severe psychological and physical distress. In ancient Rome, tickling was sometimes used as a non-lethal means to discipline slaves. In medieval times, tickling was also employed as a form of corporal punishment. Denailing. Denailing involves the forcible removal of a person's fingernails or toenails, often with pliers or similar instruments. Denailing has been documented as a method of torture used by various regimes and during different periods, including in medieval Europe and more recently during World War II by both the Nazis and the Japanese military. The practice aims to inflict extreme pain and break the will of the victim, often used to extract confessions or punish dissent. Gossip's bridle, scold's bridle or brank. The gossip's bridle, also known as the scold's bridle or brank, was a device used to punish and humiliate women accused of being scolds, nagging or gossiping, or nags. This device was predominantly used in England and Scotland during the 16th and 17th centuries. The intention was to silence women who were perceived to be disruptive or to have overstepped societal boundaries regarding appropriate female behavior. The past seems very messed up. Crucifixion. I think this doesn't need any explanations. Crucifixion was used extensively by the Romans as a method of execution for slaves, pirates, and enemies of the state. The most famous victim of crucifixion is Jesus Christ, whose death became a central symbol in Christianity. Captain's chair torture. The captain's chair is a stress position where the victim is forced to sit with their back against a wall and their legs bent at a right angle, as if sitting in an invisible chair. At first you might think this looks easy, but the longer you stay in this position, the more painful you will feel. This form of torture is often associated with modern interrogations and has been reportedly used by various military and police forces around the world. Swedish drink. Okay, this is not Absolut vodka, the famous Swedish liquor. The Swedish drink, also known as the water cure, involves forcing large quantities of liquid, often water, but sometimes urine or vinegar, down a victim's throat, leading to intense discomfort and potential suffocation. This method has been used in various forms throughout history. It was famously employed during the Spanish Inquisition and later by the Japanese during World War II. Coffin torture. Skip this one if you have claustrophobia. Coffin torture involves placing the victim inside a metal or wooden cage shaped like a human body and then suspending it in public view. This method was used in Europe's medieval period, especially by the Catholic Church during the Inquisition. It was used as both a form of public humiliation and a slow, painful death. So there you have it, every horrible and notorious torture method that mankind has come up throughout our history. If you like what you see, subscribe to our channel because there's more other stuff that we haven't shown you guys yet. And also, don't try these at home.